Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and this is day 19 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. Today's protein source is going to be rabbit, and today is going to be a shoulders and arms training routine. And the theme for today's workout is going to be assisted PNF stretching. So right now, I'm going to be demonstrating some more assisted PNF stretches. Now let's get started. And while we are resting, let's continue with our PNF demonstration in prone position. And now we are going to be focusing on the deep lateral hip rotators. For the deep lateral hip rotators, a few options for this one right over here. With regard to your stabilizing hand, you could place it at the sacrum and apply a downward pressure. And with the hand positioning, you could either go up toward the spine or you could go perpendicular to the spine. For myself, I find it much more comfortable going perpendicular to the spine. This is just a little bit awkward, but play around with it, see what works for you. Definitely, I would not recommend going that direction because you don't want your middle finger going somewhere where the patient does not want it to go. So ideally for me, perpendicular, this would also be acceptable. I would avoid doing this unless you have really good wrist extension, but that's going to be really, really uncomfortable. Another option, if you don't want to use your hand, you could also just lean on it with your forearm a little bit to create a nice stable surface. But whatever position you do for the stabilizing hand, what we would do with the knee is we want to flex the knee to 90 degrees. From this position right over here, we are going to wrap our hand around the medial malleolus of the ankle, and then with the actual execution of the exercise, because we are focusing on the deep lateral hip rotators, we want to take the patient into medial rotation by bringing the ankle out toward the outside. So we're dropping it toward the outside of the table. What we would do for this one is we would take them into medial rotation and instruct the patient, inhale, push your ankle into my hand. They would inhale, contract, and then exhale. On the exhale, lift, lean out, and then get a nice little stretch in the deep lateral rotators of the hip. Once we've done that, we could also play around with the angles as we have always done. So we could take them out 15 degrees, and as we start taking them further and further out, it's going to become a little bit more and more superficial. So right over here, it's just pure deep lateral hip rotators. And then once we start moving out, we're going to start getting more into the superficial hip rotators. But from this position, out 15 degrees, we would do the same thing. So inhale, push your ankle to the inside. They would inhale and push, and then give them a couple taps. Exhale, relax. And on the exhale, you would just take them deeper into the stretch. And then same thing, you could take them out another 15 degrees if that feels comfortable for them. The farther out you go, the more restricted they're going to be. So for patients who are very, very restricted, you may need to stick with just the hand with the femur straight out straight extended out, because going into abduction can be very uncomfortable for anybody that has a lot of restriction in their hips. But same thing, we would take them out, inhale, push the ankle into me. They would inhale, push, exhale, you would take them deeper into the stretch. And then the farthest I would ever go with anybody is 45 degrees. I would never go past 45 degrees. It's just not really worth it. And if somebody's really, really loose in the hips, you could take them this far. But generally, it's very rare that I even go this far. I'll generally go to about 30 degrees, and that's about as far as I'll usually go, unless I'm working with a dancer or somebody who's very, very flexible like a gymnast. But what I would do, again, downward pressure at the sacrum, hand at the medial malleolus, take them into medial rotation. And then I would have them inhale, push the ankle into me. They would inhale, contract, exhale, take them deeper into the stretch. When we are stretching the deep lateral hip rotators, that's primarily going to be the piriformis, and more specifically the superior fibers of the piriformis and the gluteus maximus, the posterior fibers of the gluteus maximus. And then for the deep lateral hip rotators, that's going to be the obturator internus, obturator externus, and the quadratus femoris. To some extent, we are also going to be getting the superior gemellus and inferior gemellus, but not as much as the other deep lateral hip rotators. The obturator internus, externus, and the quadratus femoris is going to be getting a lot more of a stretch than the superior gemellus and inferior gemellus. We are also going to be getting some slight activation in the sartorius muscle, and to a much lesser extent, the posterior fibers of both the gluteus medius and minimus will be getting stretched in this position. But those are the muscles that we're stretching. Give it a try. If anybody has a lot of restrictions in the deep lateral hip rotators, this is an absolute lifesaver. And our rest period is up. Time for set number 5. That was just a tiny taste of what can be found in my members only section. If you enjoyed it, become a member for only $5 a month to get access to hundreds of member only videos.